Hi, welcome to my first free class, a crash course in game art getting started. In this class, I'll show you how to obtain a free copy of Maya and Unreal and get them installed, and a little bit about how to use them. This class is for anyone that's just been wanting to get into creating games, but they just have no idea where to start. This is a good place to start. So thank you for coming. Let's make some games. In this lesson, we'll just be getting started, getting our programs up and running, and just kind of going through what to expect in this class. So let's get started. So you're gonna first go to, I have two links on my main page. One of them is for Maya LT, which will be the harder one to set up. And your link, the link, autodesk.com/education/free-software/Maya. You type that in and go to that, search for it, whatever you need to do, copy, paste it, plenty of ways to go. And you'll either sign in or create an account. You select your region, your educational role, which will be student, and on the next page you select your institution that you're going to, if you are, and if yours isn't on the list, then you can just select one that's closest to you, and that'll be fine. It's no big deal. Everyone's just trying to learn here. And after you get all that set up, then it'll give you a link to download Maya LT Student Edition, which is the same exact as the main edition, except for it puts a stamp on every single file that you're using, a student copy. And the next one we're going to get set up is Unreal. I'm going to close that guy. This is Unreal's main site. You just type in Unreal Engine and you get here and you just hit get started now. They make it that easy. You just sign up and install it. Maya is pretty self-explanatory. You just install it and boom, you open it up, it's done. Unreal, it's the harder part is after you already install it, which is still not that hard. But you're going to get to what they call the Epic Games Launcher. You're going to be here and you're like, alright, where's Unreal? You click on Unreal Engine, and it's probably going to come up on this tab first. You're like, alright, where's Unreal? And you click on Library, which doesn't seem like, oh, library, that's okay. And you're not going to have anything here, and you just hit this little plus sign. It'll let you hit this plus sign. You can choose whatever version of Unreal that you want. I'm going to make the decision now that we are going to be on 4.21.2, and it's nice to be on the same version because sometimes different versions don't play nice with each other, but that'll be the one that I'm on, and I'll make sure I stay on that for the remainder of this course, and probably for as long as I can. So that's essentially how we get everything set up for Maya and Unreal, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me, to go on the forums and ask people on the forums. There's a lot of helpful people out there as well. I can't wait to share my knowledge with all you guys and see your projects and give critiques and all that fun stuff. Alright, see you in class. Hi, I'm Sterling Reams. Welcome to Navigating Autodesk Maya. In this lesson, I'm going to be going over the UI of Maya, how to navigate Maya, how to use cameras, how to manipulate objects, how to customize your setup so that you can work very efficiently. Let's get into it. So Maya's right here. This is the viewport, the main viewport you'll be doing most of your work in. And you have your shelf here. These are a bunch of different commands and things that you can run. A lot of this stuff here, it looks very confusing. A lot of this stuff here is in these menus up here as well. And this is where you are at each frame. Just basically where you do a lot of your animating. And we got the time range. So this is the range of time that you have set right now. I have 60 frames. Right here, if you want to run your custom commands, you do it in here, or you can do it over here in the script editor. And this is an editor that shows everything that is being done in Maya in real time.
If there's any errors that you get, they'll show up in here in the script editor, and also in this right here, this command line, this status line, sorry, they call it. This is the different menus that are going to be showing. So we have it starts out with modeling. So you have your edit mesh, mesh tools, mesh display. You can change it to rigging, which is when you set up your character originally. This is skeleton, skin, deform, all that stuff. And then animation, we won't be using the animation ones too much. And shading, we won't really be using it all because all of our shading is going to be done in Unreal. I want to get into, now that I've set some values and stuff, this channel box here I kind of alluded to already. There's your translate values for translate X. X is there. Y. Z. So every attribute does something very specific. Every object is created with some history. This is just the initial history on this object. Let me just add something to it. As you do edits to something, more and more history will show up here. In Maya, it's rarely helpful to keep that history around. Usually I'm just like constantly deleting history, but sometimes it's helpful. Let's go into how you manipulate objects in general. Let's first go into the camera. To manipulate the camera, you hold down Alt and you push the left mouse button to rotate around an object. You push the right mouse button to zoom in and out of that object. And you push the middle mouse button to kind of move around the object and to move to different objects. Now say, so now we're off center from this object. Like I moved over here, there's some object over here I'm working on, and now I want to go back to over there, but I rotate and it's like totally off. I'm like, oh, I can't really rotate around this object anymore. To do that, all you gotta do is push F. F is for focus. It focuses on the object. You'll be using F a whole ton. I selected it and pushed F, and it went right to it. That's very helpful. If you push Q on the keyboard, that's just for selecting things. That's it, if you just want to select. W makes it so you can move stuff. You can either move it on a specific axis, or you can select the middle, which will move it in whatever camera viewport you're facing, it'll move it. Then we go to E. E is for rotation. That's how you rotate. And then R is for scale. That's the main keyboard shortcuts for manipulating. I think that's all I'm going to go into on the keyboard shortcuts, just so you can kind of get your bearings. Next, let's set up our workspace here so we can have it ready for modeling and give ourselves as much screen space as possible. The first thing I'm going to do is rip out this toolbox and exit out. You can leave it there if you want. If you're not quite used to the keyboard shortcuts, you can leave it there, it's fine. If you push the space bar, it will pop out to these 4 views. If you push the space bar again while you have one highlighted, it'll go into the next view. So these 4 views are helpful because this is your top view, your front view, your side view of your character. You go to settings, the fastest way is right here in the corner, this little guy with the gear. Let's start at interface. This is where we're going to turn off the this little toolbar here takes up space. We don't really need that yet. Let's see, let's go down to the UI elements. Let's turn off our shelf. We don't need the shelf right now. Actually, there's not a whole lot other things to change because they're pretty much what we want them at. 30 FPS for your frames per second. Centimeters for our units. There's something with undos here. So undos by default, there's 50 undos, and I've had times where I've needed to undo something like over hundreds of times. So I usually just leave this on infinite. I have never had any memory issues due to this, so I just leave that on infinite for undo. We want to get rid of this big UI element right over our screen. It's kind of in the way. So what we do there, we go to heads up display, and we can turn off poly count. And you can turn off anything you want. Right now that seems to be the only thing we need to turn off. So that's pretty much how you set up Maya, how you navigate Maya so that you can use Maya to just make stuff. And we're going to get into modeling next, and it's very imperative that you know how to use the tools, because the hardest part is usually just kind of getting up to speed on everything. So I'm glad that we could get this out of the way, just so we can finally get into actually using the program to do what we want to do, which is create game characters. So I'm very excited for the next lessons, and I'll see you there. Thank you.
Just let me quickly go into how to use Unreal a little bit. You'll open up the Epic Games Launcher, you'll go to your Library tab, and here is where you'll have all your versions of your engine installed. We are using 4.21.2. Let's hit the launch button. Alright, and the first thing will come up is this little pop-up for a new project. And what we're going to do, we're going to use the third-person built-in project. We're going to select that. So that's our third-person project. Unreal has all these very helpful standard projects that you can start off with, which is really cool. So we're going to keep everything how it is, and you're going to choose your path for your project. You're going to name your project, create project. Alright, welcome to Unreal Engine 4. Let's turn that off. The main difference between Unreal and Maya, you don't need to hold down the Alt key constantly to move the camera in Unreal. You just left click to rotate around and move and rotate. Middle click to kind of pan. And if you just want to rotate, you right click. And that's pretty simple there. Let's get into our views. So you can drop things down into the editor using this little sidebar here. It just creates a sphere. This is what I just created, a sphere. Oh, and player start locations as well. You add those a lot through this. And cameras. Other than that, I don't really use this too much. We have so you can play the game by pushing the play button here. This lets you test it. And there you go, we got our guy, the basic locomotion here. This is just the built-in locomotion. You're gonna hit this button here, and it'll expand your library out. This is where we'll be putting all our assets. We have geometry here. There's just some default geometry. We have they call it mannequin. They have their characters called mannequin. They have their animations here. They have their character mesh, their rigged character mesh here with the skeleton. This is essentially where all your assets for your game goes in the content folder. And this is where all our objects will show up. Right here, here's your light source. You can move it in real time. You'll see all your shadows and lighting update. Change any options you want. That's a cool thing about Unreal. They kind of try to make everything display exactly how it should at all times. It's a little bit different in this preview than when you play the game, but it's pretty close. So you notice I have more than one character I threw in here. I just dragged that from the library right in. And this is instancing. So if your asset in the Unreal here with all your settings set, and when you have it in the viewport here, when you drag it into a level, you can set specific options on each character. And this is very powerful because you don't have to have a bunch of different versions of the same character sitting in the library. And this calls for any asset, really. So every asset can have its own attributes. And the attribute editor is called the Details panel. All of the different attributes, just like Maya, that we can edit and see in real time, update. There's a whole bunch here, materials. There's a panel here that comes in a little squished. This shows the different objects that are inside of each blueprint that I have selected here. A blueprint is essentially just a collection of objects in Unreal, and they all have their own code. This is how Unreal operates, essentially, is through just a bunch of different blueprints. Blueprint actors. And we're going to go into a lot of this a lot more later. So we have our settings up in the corner here, the perspective camera that we're on, our lighting mode, we're going to use lit most of the time, things that you can show and hide. These are our different manipulators, just like Maya, the W, E, and R key to switch between your different modes. Your movement, you can say how much it snaps. You can say how much your rotation is snapping. My rotation is snapping every 5 degrees. Your scale every 0.25. By default, this camera is at 4, which feels a little too fast to me. You can use your WASD to move in space, and 4 is just a little bit too fast, so we're going to put that down to 3. Feels a little bit better to me always. There's just a huge jump in the way it moves. And this is your preview game camera, so I have my camera selected here, and it's showing me just a little preview of that window. And that's just kind of like a quick rundown of how Unreal works. We're going to get into it a lot more later. That concludes this first class. We got our programs up and running. I showed you how to use Maya. I showed you how to use Unreal. And we're just going to jump right into modeling a character and texturing it. And I can't wait to see you in the next class. Thank you.